Hello, this is part 2 of the lecture. We are going to start off on the new area of focus, which is the sun, moon, and earth, and what we're looking at, and we're going to start by talking about the eclipses. So lunar eclipse is the earth interrupts light shining on the moon. Okay, so as you look at the picture, you'll see the sun, and then you'll see earth, right? And the moon is directly, so you have the sun, earth, and moon. And so what that looks like is as the moon is orbiting around, the earth interrupts and kind of does a direct line where the earth gets almost in between the sun and the moon. And so you have that's what's called a lunar eclipse. A solar eclipse is when the moon passes between the sun and the earth. So the sun is wholly or partially obscured. So now instead of a lunar where you have sun, earth, moon, now it's the opposite. And the moon has orbited around, and now it's sun, moon, earth. And so you have that interruption. And then the partial eclipse is only part of the body is covered. So that's what we're looking at. And as we're going through. And for that's all you have to know about those eclipses. We're not diving in. As we go on with this lecture, we are going to actually talk about the different planets a little bit as you go through, but this will be the only part of it before we move in to more detailed information about the sun. Okay, so let's talk about the inner planets. And what does that mean? So often when we measure, astronomers measure how far something is or what that looks like, they use what they call an astronomical unit. And so this is the distance from Earth to the sun. And it is really far. It is 93 million miles. All the other country uses kilometers, so that means that it's 150 million kilometers. So that is a very, very long way. And one thing about Earth is that craters can be found on Earth. Most craters are eroded, right? So as craters move through our atmosphere, they're kind of burned up, broken down, and then by the time that they really actually hit the rock on Earth, a lot of them are gone. They're eroded away from the wind and the water, and most meteorites also burn up in that atmosphere, so we really don't see them. And as we're talking about things orbiting between the sun, moon, and earth, what they're talking about is, maybe some of you have heard this, a winter solstice, right? We're kind of done with winter. Everybody's ready to be done with winter. But is the moment when the earth is at a point in its orbit where one hemisphere is most inclined away from the sun. So what does that mean? That talks about sometimes our shortest and longest days that we're looking at. So shortest day and longest night of the year is actually around December 21st. So right before Christmas time that we celebrate here in America, like that is our shortest day and our longest night that we have. And then summer solstice is when the axial tilt is most inclined towards the sun. So when we talk about our different seasons, why we have night or day, or we go into the different seasons, that's really because Earth either tilts towards the sun or tilts away from the sun as it rotates. So the Earth is constantly turning on what we call as an axis, but it's turning on a tilt, and it's constantly turning around. So remember, so as Earth is turning, it's also moving around the sun at the same time. So that tilt will either put it towards the sun or away from the sun. And so when we're talking about summer solstice, what does that mean? That you're going to have the longest day, and it's going to be tilted towards the sun, and that's actually around June 21st that we're starting to see that. So that's actually the end of spring and moving into our summer season. And so we also have what we call an equinox. Either of the two times each year. And that happens on 2 days, March 21st and September 23rd, which is my birthday. So what you're talking about is entering springtime and then entering fall time. So you have a winter solstice, a summer solstice, and then you have 2 equinoxes throughout the year. And so those are what we consider the 2 different spring times, right? And this is when actually the sun crosses the equator. So Earth actually has an equator, and basically it's a line. You could cut it in half. You could actually, not literally, but you could 2 equal parts. And so that equinox actually goes around the sun. And so what that means is that day and nights are everywhere on Earth, no matter where you're at, are equal times, equal. So when we talked about Earth being on a tilt, what does that mean? It's on a tilt, it spins on its axis, and it actually tilts at a 23.5 degrees. So it's pretty good tilt. So when it does tilt, and we're talking about the longest day, and as we enter summer, you know, I don't know about you, but I know that I can't wait till summer gets here. What we're talking about is that the northern hemisphere, remember I said the equator kind of cuts it in half. You could probably take it apart, take the top on, bottom off. So you have a northern hemisphere and a southern hemisphere. And so as you enter summer, what does that mean? It means that it's tilted towards the sun, and that the northern hemisphere is going to get more direct sunlight. So that's why we have those long, direct, hot summer. And then winter means that when we're in winter season, we're just leaving now. We just entered springtime. Means that the northern hemisphere is during winter is tilted away from the sun. And so right now we're kind of transitioning, right? March 21st was not too long ago, 3 weeks ago. And so we just had an equinox. And now we are transitioning from winter to summer. So instead of it tilting away, we're actually starting to go like this and tilt towards the sun, right? So then by June 21st, when we hit the summer solstice, we'll actually be tilted towards the sun. So you're going to have that long summertime. Okay? So that's interesting and good to know. Okay, so my next video will be talking about and starting off with the moon. Okay, so as phases of the moon kind of go into play, that's what we're going to start off. So I will actually be posting the moon video tomorrow, and I will put up some reading on the moon as we start to go through. Okay, thank you.